It is almost impossible to explain the feeling of sitting in a wooden cart, hands bound, listening to the rhythmic creaking of wheels against a rough stone road without immediately hearing a specific voice in your head. It has been 15 years. 15 years since we first looked up at the gray, overcast sky of Tamriel's northern province. In the gaming industry, 15 years is usually a death sentence. It is enough time for consoles to die, for genres to disappear, and for massive studios to rise and fall. Yet, here we are in 2026, and somehow we are still talking about the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It refuses to fade away. It refuses to let us go. You might think you know everything about this game. You have seen the memes, you have played the remasters, the ports, the VR versions, and the editions released for your refrigerator and your car dashboard. But playing it now in a world dominated by hyper-realistic physics engines and AI-driven NPCs feels different. It feels like returning to a childhood home that is smaller than you remember, yet somehow holds more memories than any mansion you have visited since. When you boot up Skyrim today, the first thing that hits you is a strange mix of age and timelessness. We are used to games now where you can count the pores on a character's face or watch individual leaves react to the wind in real time. Skyrim doesn't have that. By modern standards, the geometry is blocky, the animations are stiff, and the textures, without mods, can look a bit like muddy watercolor paintings. But then the music swells. That heavy, Viking-inspired choir kicks in, and you step out of the tutorial cave into the open world, and none of the technical limitations matter anymore. The art direction does something that raw graphical power can never replicate. It creates a mood. The way the light hits the snow on the throat of the world, or the auroras dancing over the marshes of Morthal at night, still manages to take your breath away. It is a lesson that many modern developers seem to have forgotten. Atmosphere is more important than polygon counts. The world feels cold, harsh, and ancient. It doesn't try to look like a photograph of the real world. It tries to look like a painting of a fantasy world, and that stylistic choice is what has saved it from becoming an ugly relic. When you boot up Skyrim today, the first thing that hits you is a strange mix of age and timelessness. We are used to games now where you can count the pores on a character's face or watch individual leaves react to the wind in real time. Skyrim doesn't have that. By modern standards, the geometry is blocky, the animations are stiff, and the textures, without mods, can look a bit like muddy watercolor paintings. But then the music swells. That heavy, Viking-inspired choir kicks in, and you step out of the tutorial cave into the open world, and none of the technical limitations matter anymore. The art direction does something that raw graphical power can never replicate. It creates a mood. The way the light hits the snow on the throat of the world, or the auroras dancing over the marshes of Morthal at night, still manages to take your breath away. It is a lesson that many modern developers seem to have forgotten. Atmosphere is more important than polygon counts. The world feels cold, harsh, and ancient. It doesn't try to look like a photograph of the real world. It tries to look like a painting of a fantasy world, and that stylistic choice is what has saved it from becoming an ugly relic. Exploration was and still is the heartbeat of this experience. In 2026, we have maps that are larger, filled with thousands of procedurally generated points of interest, but they often feel empty. They feel like checklists. Skyrim is dense. You can pick a direction, any direction, and walk for 3 minutes, and you will find something that was hand-placed by a designer who wanted to tell a small story. Maybe it's a bandit camp tucked under an overhang, or a shrine to a forgotten god, or just a skeleton reaching for a bottle of mead. This environmental storytelling is where the game truly shines. It respects your intelligence. It doesn't always put a big flashing arrow over a secret. You have to look. You have to pay attention. There's a sense of discovery here that is genuinely addictive. You set out to deliver a quest item to a nearby town, but on the way you see a strange icon on your compass. You investigate, 3 hours later, you're deep underground in a Dwemer ruin, fighting robotic spiders and solving puzzles, completely forgetting what you were originally supposed to do. That loop, that constant distraction by interesting things, is the magic trick that Bethesda perfected. However, we have to talk about the combat, and this is where the rose-tinted glasses usually fall off. Even back in 2011, the combat was not groundbreaking. In 2026, it feels incredibly floaty. When you swing a sword, it doesn't feel like you're connecting with flesh and bone. It feels like you're swiping a cardboard tube through the air. There's no real weight to it. The enemies don't react physically to your hits until their health bar depletes and they ragdoll to the ground. Magic is a bit better with the dual-wielding system allowing you to combine spells, but it still lacks the punch and feedback of modern action RPGs. You'll find yourself pausing the game constantly to drink potions, eating 50 cheese wheels in a split second to regain health, which is a hilarious but completely immersion-breaking mechanic. Yet, despite the clunkiness, it works. It's serviceable. It doesn't get in the way of the fun, even if it doesn't enhance it. This simplicity means anyone can pick it up. You don't need to memorize complex combo strings. You just see a dragon, you take out your bow, and you shoot. Speaking of bows, we all know the inevitable destiny of every Skyrim player. You can start the game swearing you will play as a heavy armor warrior with a two-handed axe. You can promise yourself you will be a pure mage, flinging fireballs and summoning Atronachs. But give it 10 hours, just 10 hours. Eventually, you will find yourself crouching in the shadows, holding a bow, sniping enemies from a distance. The stealth archer build is almost a meme at this point, but it highlights a flaw in the game's balance. Stealth is overpowered, and the AI is frankly stupid. You can shoot a bandit in the head, his friend will run over, look at the body, say, "Must have been the wind," and go back to eating bread. It's comical. In an era where enemy AI hunts you down and uses tactics, Skyrim's enemies are charmingly brain-dead. But strangely, this adds to the power fantasy. You feel like a ghost, a predator, untethered by realistic constraints. It's a sandbox, and the toys are easy to break, but breaking them is part of the fun. The character progression system, interestingly, has aged better than the combat. Instead of picking a class at the start and being locked into it, you get better at things simply by doing them. If you want to be better at sneaking, you sneak. If you want to be a master of one-handed weapons, you use one-handed weapons. It is a natural, organic way to grow a character that makes sense. It allows for a fluidity that modern RPGs often overcomplicate with sprawling skill trees that require spreadsheets to understand. In Skyrim, you look at the constellations in the sky, the skill menu, and you just pick perks that sound cool. It is accessible. It encourages experimentation. You can pivot your build halfway through the game without needing to restart. This freedom is central to why people play for hundreds of hours. You're not playing a role defined by the developers, you are defining the role through your actions. Then there is the narrative. If we're being honest, the main story of Skyrim is its weakest link. The tale of the Dragonborn, the return of Alduin the World Eater, and the civil war between the Empire and the Stormcloaks is fine. It is serviceable epic fantasy. There are dragons, there are prophecies, there are high stakes, but the pacing is odd and the urgency is non-existent. You are told the world is ending, but the game is perfectly happy to let you spend 3 months building a house or picking flowers. The characters in the main quest are often stoic and dry. Delphine, Esbern, the Greybeards, they are vehicles for exposition, not people you truly fall in love with. However, the side content is a completely different beast. The Dark Brotherhood questline remains one of the best written sequences in RPG history. The Thieves Guild offers a fantastic journey from rags to riches. The Daedric quests are weird, dark, and morally complex. This is where the writing team clearly had fun. The main story is the plate, but the side quests are the actual meal. You can completely ignore the dragons and still have a fulfilling 100-hour adventure. We cannot discuss Skyrim in 2026 without addressing the elephant in the room, or rather the mammoth falling from the sky. The bugs. The Bethesda jank. It is part of the game's DNA. Even after all these years and patches, you will see NPCs walking into walls. You will see giants launching players into the stratosphere with a single club slam. You will see horses defying the laws of physics to climb vertical mountains. In a serious, gritty game, these would be fatal flaws. In Skyrim, they are endearing features. They remind you that this is a game, a complex system of moving parts held together by digital duct tape. There's a charm to the chaos. It breaks the immersion, sure, but it usually replaces it with laughter. It creates water cooler moments. "You won't believe what happened to me last night" is a sentence that usually ends with a description of a glitch, not a plot point. But why is it still alive? Why are we still here? The answer is two words: the community. Specifically, the modders. If you are playing Skyrim on a PC in 2026, you are likely not playing the vanilla game. You are playing a version of Skyrim that has been overhauled, expanded, and polished by thousands of passionate fans. There are mods that add entirely new land masses, mods that turn the combat into a modern action game, mods that add thousands of lines of voiced dialogue. The community has kept this game on life support, pumped it full of adrenaline, and made it immortal. They have fixed what the developers couldn't and added what the developers didn't. It is a collaborative masterpiece. The base game is just a canvas now. The players are the painters. This relationship between developer and community is something unique. Bethesda built the playground, but the kids brought their own toys, and they have been playing there for 15 years. Sound design deserves its own spotlight. The voice acting is a mixed bag. You will hear the same 5 voice actors for hundreds of different characters. It becomes a running joke. The Jarl of one city sounds exactly like the shopkeeper in the next. It makes the world feel a bit small, a bit theatrical. But the music is flawless. Jeremy Soul's soundtrack is not just background noise, it is the soul of the experience. The tracks Far Horizons and The Streets of Whiterun evoke a sense of peace and longing that few pieces of media ever achieve. It is music that makes you feel cold, makes you feel solitary, makes you feel like a traveler in a vast, indifferent land. Even in 2026, you can put that soundtrack on and instantly be transported back. It carries the emotional weight of the entire game. When you look at the legacy of Skyrim, you see its DNA in almost every open-world game that came after it. It popularized the compass bar at the top of the screen. It popularized the go anywhere, do anything philosophy. It showed the industry that single-player games were not dead, that people craved massive, sprawling adventures they could get lost in. But few have managed to capture the same feeling. Many are bigger, many are prettier, many have better writing, but very few feel as much like home. There's a comfort in Skyrim. It's a known quantity. It's a world where you know the rules, you know the geography, and you feel powerful. In a real world that often feels chaotic and uncontrollable, stepping into the shoes of the Dragonborn, shouting at a dragon, and absorbing its soul offers a distinct, primal satisfaction. So how does it rate in 2026? If you judge it strictly by technical metrics, graphics, physics, AI, combat fluidity, it shows its age. It's a relic. It's clunky and dusty, but games aren't just technical metrics. They are experiences. They are about how they make you feel. And Skyrim still makes you feel like an adventurer. It still sparks that curiosity of what is over that hill. It still offers a level of freedom that is rare. It's a game that respects your agency. It doesn't force you down a corridor. It opens a door and says, go. If you've never played it, you have to. You have to understand the history, but you will stay for the adventure. If you have played it, you know why you're watching this. You're thinking about reinstalling it right now. You're thinking about that stealth archer build you swore you wouldn't do again. I give The Elder Scrolls Skyrim a 4.5 out of 5. It is not perfect. It never was, but it is essential. It is a masterpiece of flawed ambition that somehow became greater than the sum of its parts. It is one of the few games that truly deserves the word epic. Go ahead, boot it up. The card is waiting, the executioner is ready, and there's a whole world waiting to be saved, or destroyed, or just ignored while you chase butterflies. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, or if you're currently shouting at a dragon in your living room, do me a favor, hit that like button. It really helps the channel survive the algorithm. Subscribe if you want to see more reviews of classics that refuse to die. And let me know in the comments, what was your very first character build in Skyrim? I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.